I have a good idea about approximately how long it's been going on, and it's 11:01 a.m. on Thursday, May 21st, and yeah, it's right in everyone's face, and this feels like a topic that is way beneath me. I can't stand. I'm repulsed usually by videos that claim to show that someone that was in an accident is alive based upon some grainy photo or some yearbook photo. You know, these people are still there. I can't stand that stuff. I've participated in this a little bit, but it usually doesn't go anywhere, and I just don't like it. But the facial and physical and transformation and the priority transformation of now out-primaried, I suppose, Thomas Massie of Kentucky in the United States, right around November of 2024 is nothing less than stunning. And what it means is a lot of people know about it. That's what it means. There's no way that the old Thomas Massie had an interview with Tucker Carlson on June 6th to 8th or so, and I have a bunch of videos indexed that I'm going to show. And then Tucker Carlson talks to that Thomas Massie a year later and doesn't know it's a different person. There's no way. That means that Tucker Carlson knows. That means a lot of people know that at the very minimum, or some people are replaced. They know. So there's no way that we could ever expect Tucker Carlson to take seriously, for example, the drug epidemic in the United States, or how COVID was faked, if he's willing to go as far as to work with the system and to participate in a lie that people are still the same people. There's no way. This is not an indictment of Thomas Massie. And in fact, as I've been going through this, I kind of like Thomas Massie. The real Thomas Massie. The Thomas Massie that was on a stage and was just out-primaried is a different person. Thomas Massie was replaced it was right around the election of 2024. I believe there was a handshake agreement that Trump will win, but MAGA will be attacked via Thomas Massie, and Thomas Massie was replaced. And I have a reason for it, though. I suspect that when Thomas Massie started to really dig in, going against all of the funding from AIPAC around May of June of 2024, this is what's different. I have a reason, okay? I actually agree with it. I'm not on this whole, Israel phobia thing, AIPAC phobia thing. And I know that, look, foreign governments, foreign institutions are going to try to lobby. The U.S. does it. U.S. global corporations do it. I don't like it. It should be restricted. It should be minimized. It's still going to happen. It's going to find a way. I get it. It's one of those things. No matter how hard you try, there's going to be ants in the house somewhere. You're always fighting it. It is what it is, and you have to keep it under control, okay? When Thomas Massie really went after that, he got really close. What he didn't identify, and I think what Thomas Massie accidentally bumped into, was the fact that AIPAC is not really about Israel. It's more about India. And I think when Thomas Massie realized a much bigger geopolitical situation that he had just bumped his toes into, that the U.S. military And I'm usually very defensive of U.S. military, but let's be honest here, okay? There's a lot of U.S. military endeavors which are funded in the name of being against Islam or being against terrorism, which in fact are to the benefit or the betterment of other powers. And we're told it's Israel, but Israel keeps complaining about countries that don't border it. The reality is that most of the countries that Israel says it's afraid of are next to India. And Thomas Massie, I believe, bumped into this. And I suspect it has something to do with the timing of his wife's death. His wife's death, as Jonathan Cooey of Giggle and Biological highlighted, was only about 3 weeks after Thomas Massie got all the way to the Tucker Carlson show with a great big complaint about AIPAC. So he was on the right track, but you can't sway from that. They were trying to rope him in more into, okay, now you're at AIPAC, work with Marjorie Taylor Greene, be a good boy, work with Marjorie Taylor Greene, focus on these Epstein files. Okay. Thomas Massie was doing that. And then Ro Khanna comes in. And it's the Ro Khanna factor that is like, wait, why does Thomas Massie suddenly seem to work for Ro Khanna sometime starting around late 2024? Ro Khanna, the Democrat, who along with several other Indian American Democrats, are all leading the Epstein charge. While also some of them take money from AIPAC. How can people continue to say that the Epstein files is something to do with Israel and Jews, but the Indian people who are in Congress leading this Epstein charge also get money from AIPAC? The entire Epstein operation is sunk right there. It doesn't make sense, at least as far as what people say it's about. Because that would mean that the very organization that's supposedly buying candidates in order to protect the Epstein files is also funding the candidates that are highlighting the Epstein files. AIPAC. And this is the main show, the main theater, the main act through which at least conservative America is being shredded right now and tortured about. And if you're Thomas Massie, if you go any further than saying AIPAC, Israel, Jews, Trump, something or other, it's bad. And it's the timing of Thomas Massie's wife's death, real or not, correlates with a very dangerous situation that he had probably stumbled into. Now, exactly what happened there, I don't know. I don't have any specific evidence. But I can show you, and I have a bunch of videos saved. Well, just look at him. Look, he stopped wearing glasses, and he suddenly, you could just tell, his whole body language is different. I can even show you the last video, that's still him. And the very first video, where he's interviewed by an Indian man at CNN, you can tell he's a different person. He's not the same person anymore. Now, how long this was part of the agreement, I'm not really sure. But I'll go through the videos. Wife's death is, if it involved a chronic illness, I am surprised that he hasn't worked harder to highlight whatever that chronic illness was. It should be something that he speaks more often about, whatever it is. He seems to not really have any very specific things to say about it, though. It's, well, it happened, and you know, he seemed to be remarkably okay afterwards, at least as far as his public appearances go. Now, when people lose a family member, a spouse, or a child, it is their goal for people not to describe them, identify them as simply a person who lost a family member. I choose not to speak every day about our loss because I don't want to be famous. I won't be famous, but I don't want to be known for that. I don't want to be defined by that. It was our family's interest, which involved my own addiction, to be honest with you, throughout the early 2000 teens, and its lack of visibility in the United States, long before Curran died, that got me started doing this. So I choose. And other executives would be the same way. If you're an executive, if you had a child die in a drunk driving accident or something, you don't want to, every time people see you, you're the person who had that child die. You don't want that. So you have to be careful. If Thomas Massie doesn't, seem to want everyone's thoughts and prayers all the time, that's not because something terrible didn't happen. It's because many strong people, many strong professionals and leaders don't want to be defined by a tragedy. So I don't put too much weight on that. I just don't know. The timing, though, is remarkable. Okay, it is remarkable. And when you consider the fact that Thomas Massie himself, look, it's not the same guy. It's not the same person. If I grew a beard, you could still tell it was me. Of course, I would look different. I shaved today, looking good. But if I grew a beard, you could tell it was me. But if I grew a beard, held my shoulders differently, my voice was different, my nose was different, I suddenly went from wearing glasses to not wearing glasses, and the shape of my head changed. And then I only was interested in talking about Ghislaine Maxwell and nothing else. You go, wow, that seems weird. That's an awful lot of change. What hit him in the head? And I suspect Massie was asked to get off the stage. And, maybe there is a national security situation involving China, involving India, involving the United Nations, where they were able to convince Massie that, look, sorry, you kicked the hornet's nest, and we just can't be giving visibility right now to this publicly. Sorry, you're a risk. We can't have you out there anymore. I suspect something like that. They might have been able to sell him on. I'm not sure. But I wanted to let the evidence speak for itself, okay? Let's just let the evidence speak for itself here. And so this is December 16th, 2023.
And certainly on the Republican side of several votes opposing to anti-Semitism. Could you just explain
December 16th, 2023,
Israel, where you're coming from, and what some of these critics might be missing about your position?
Sure. That was the first of 19 votes. Today, we're going to take our 19th virtue signal vote here in Congress. But I guess I got off on the wrong foot early.
Notice he says vote. There's a O, like Quaker Oats when he does a vote.
And have been voting consistently ever since. The title of that bill is wonderful. I have no disagreement with the title of that bill, but there are 4 or 5 pages that go after that title. And it's a resolution. The first, objection I have to it was there was inside of that an open-ended.
He very seldom needs to look at notes when he talks. Note his hair is always a little bit too much product in his hair.
Pledge of military support for Israel. Okay, we never declare wars anymore. The administration just kind of goes and does it, and Congress keeps funding it. But they find the imprimatur for their activity right there in these resolutions.
Again, December 16th, 2023. Okay, so let's go 2 months later, February 1st, 2024. February 1st, 2024.
I would like to yield such time as the gentleman shall consume.
Look, there's something in this bill called tax credits, but they're also called refundable. So what is a refundable tax credit? It's welfare by a different name.
And you know what he does? He has like this little adorable kind of smile. He knows how crazy this stuff is. He knows it's nuts what he's talking about, the corruption. And he can't help but smile a little bit, like a little kid. There's something kind of endearing about it.
We are going to give cash payments, checks, to people who don't even pay taxes. The hardworking constituents that I represent in Kentucky are tired of getting up at 6 a.m., driving an hour or two to work, working their hind ends off to watch their neighbors collect these checks, of which there will be more of after this bill.
All right, that's February 1st. Now let's go to May 1st, 2024. This is actually C-SPAN. He's speaking at some outdoor event with Marjorie Taylor Greene on the ousting of Speaker Johnson. And I'm going to fast forward to the Massie part.
This is so demotivating here. We sat here and watched total capitulation with the Democrats waving
This is definitely still him.
flags that was premeditated of another country, not the American flag. You know, Mike Johnson should have brought the white flag and waved it in front of us. Because it was a complete capitulation. It was a humiliation, not just to us, but to all the American people who pay their tax dollars only to see them go overseas, fund foreign wars, secure other countries' borders without security.
100% agree. And if there is a reason for money to be going overseas to fund foreign wars because of the geopolitical relationship between the United States, India, China, etc., Americans should be able to know about it. If America, as a union, wishes to vote and choose leaders that say, look, a priority of our nation is to be involved in this particular war because it favors this country for some reason or whatever, it still might not even be constitutional, but at least give Americans the decency to be able to know how the money is being used and how their children may die. All right? So I 100% agree with him. I'm not saying that I'm strictly against it, but at least give people the knowledge to know what's going on and not lie to them. I totally agree with this. Okay.
I know there are a lot of writers here. There's one I'm
June
somewhat
3rd,
familiar
2024.
with, and I heard you, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, discuss it in your opening testimony, and that's on the NICS background check system. Can you
June 3rd, 2024.
explain to me what your aversion is to that writer, what your concern is?
Yeah, it's definitely still him. Now let's go to June 7th, 2024. We have Thomas Massie on the Tucker Carlson show.
And 20% of their transactions are in U.S. dollars.
Definitely
so what we're
still
doing
him.
with all these sanctions, ironically, we're shooting ourselves in the foot every time we sanction a country and say you can't use our currency to have a transaction. We're taking away our ability to charge them 3%.
Look at that. He's like a little kid. This is definitely still him.
For that transaction, because when we print 3% more dollars, we're just taking that money.
That is June 7th. Okay, now, do I have that link? I have another video. I don't have the link here. It was from something called Breaking Points on June 11th, 2024. It might have just been highlights from here. On June 27th, 2024, his wife dies. So his wife dies 2 weeks after this. Again, give credit to Jonathan Kuigigal and Biological for first really getting a little bee in his bonnet about this one, wanting to look into it. So 2 weeks after this interview, his wife dies. And we don't know a lot of details about it. A chronic illness, it happened suddenly. It's strange. We know that his overall appearances publicly were limited after that. Let's go to July 23rd, 2024, which is about 4 weeks after his wife's death.
With that, we go to
in
the gentleman
Congress.
from Kentucky, Mr. Massey.
I thank the chairman. Ms. Hairston, Mr. Corte, and Professor Contreras, you all mentioned this thing called public interest dispute. Ms. Hairston.
This is definitely still him.
What do you mean by public interest, that the ITC should consider public interest?
His body language is a little bit different because he's not quite as jovial anymore.
To be infringing, that you should still be able to import that product. Is that true?
And you can just tell by the way he's talking, his body language. He's not as happy. Of course he's not as happy. His wife is dead. This sucks. This is a sucky time. That's July 24th. Now, August, no videos. No videos in August. Let's go to September 18th, 2024.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the Constitution of the United States of America is the guardian of our liberties. It embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. September 17th,
And notice he always has glasses on.
2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. It's fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which commemorate it.
I can still tell it's the real guy. This is still really Massie. Let's go to September 23rd, 2024. September 23rd, 2024. We are now about 2 months away from the election.
I also predicted this would fall right before Christmas, and I believe this does fall on December 20th. Now, why have we picked December 20th? Because it's the same reason we always have December 20th. Everybody up here is human. There are no AIs or robots in Congress. And when you get to December 20th, you're 5 days from Christmas. You're 4 days from Christmas Eve.
Let's continue on here. Now, on October 26th, 2024, we have the real Thomas Massie still
What we're supposed to do. We're the leaders
at
of
an
the
event
free
in
country,
Florida.
right, free world. And instead, we got an email that said, stay home. We're going to use unanimous consent, which means if nobody objects.
So this is at something called Wise Traditions. October 26, 2024, he receives an award. The event happens in Florida. It's definitely him. I think he makes up a few stories that he's telling here. But this is still him. October 26th, 2024. And I believe this is the last time I can find him, the real Thomas Massie, on video. Let's look at November 13th, 2024. 2 weeks later. This is Spectrum News. 2 weeks later, on November 13th, 2024, he's no longer wearing glasses. And that does not look like the same person. Right around election time. That's a different person. And then from there, he grows a beard. He never wears glasses again. He stopped wearing glasses, and then he started to grow a beard. And his hair starts to change shape. All right around that time. Now, let's look at December 3rd, 2024. You'll notice...
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Speaking in Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How often does the CBO director come to Congress to... You've never met him?
This is a different guy.
When did you get a copy of the CBO score?
Just
Just look at the eyes. This is a different guy. His hair is getting longer. His body language is different. Thomas Massie, sometime around Election Day of 2024. I haven't narrowed down to the day, ladies and gentlemen. The day. The day. They changed. And I think it was a handshake agreement. Trump can be president, but Thomas Massie needs to be replaced with a pro-India person working for Ro Khanna, because he was getting too close to the reality that AIPAC is not really just about Israel. AIPAC is about India, probably as much as Israel. And in fact, it's strange that what's good for Israel tends to be good for India. And if you look at the entire Epstein operation, everything from Ro Khanna to Pramila Jayapal to Raja Krishnamurthy, of course, getting sign-off from everyone from Ami Bera to former U.S. Ambassador to India, Richard Verma, it's mostly an operation that seems to have the support of India. And he spends almost all of his time on a leash tied to Ro Khanna ever since the election day, November 6, 2024. And I'll show you another video here. This is December 2024. And yeah, he'll never wear glasses again. This is December 2024.
Given how he's handled this as Speaker, could you vote for him on January 3rd?
He doesn't have my vote.
So you won't vote for him?
He does not have my vote.
Will you change your mind?
It would take a Christmas miracle.
This one is probably one of the most bizarre of the videos because it has some things similar. It's almost as if I think they had to do a couple of videos like in the middle as part of the swap. And I don't really understand what the conditions were. Clearly, Thomas Massie, he has to be complicit in it. All right. It's not like they have him locked up in a jail cell somewhere. So I think there's a couple of things that he did. This one is the weirdest, is the hardest one to pin down, though. But after that, if we go to YouTube, January of 2025, let's see it. And remember, you can deep fake some of these too. I mean, even the audio in this one is messed up. This one is...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
February
Hansen, I once had a mentor who told me that
2025.
hope is not a business plan. In your testimony, has not met. I made a prediction in front of this committee, and I'm going to
I mean, come on. This is not the same guy.
make it again today, that this won't be ready by 2026.
And he's wearing the same tie. He's wearing the same tie. It's almost as if this was all part of the transition. The Thomas Massie that you saw on stage the other day, if you look at his family, they just want to be off stage. They can't even believe that they are actually part of something where their dad isn't even on the stage anymore. This is absurd what the hell's going on here. And this means Tucker Carlson and multiple other people know it's not even the same guy anymore. And why would they do it? Why would so many people be complicit with it? People would be complicit with it, suggest that there isn't anyone who is actually killed. Because the best way to get away with killing someone is to not kill anybody. It means that there was some level of national security, which is so serious that they couldn't have him on the stage anymore. And I suspect they needed to control the whole AIPAC narrative. He probably couldn't lie about it well enough. When you see Thomas Massie exaggerating, and I'm going to show you a clip of Thomas Massie exaggerating something, it's pretty clear he's making it up. I don't think he's a very convincing liar. In fact, let's go back to the last, I would say, confirmed video of Thomas Massie at a public event, and that is at this show here, where he's talking about being on a farm.
By the way, our whole ruse was she was working on a science project, and I was like the missing from our kids' lives, and it was their. We bought the farm my wife grew up with cattle. It's a.
Listen to this.
If you start with a large fortune, and so I say, at MIT I had a get-rich-quick scheme, and then I moved to Kentucky and I had a go-broke-slow scheme, which was farming. And I decided to raise, we decided to raise grass-fed cattle, to raise them as naturally as we could. I guess they wouldn't be classified organic because I can't get organic hay from my neighbors, but they're pretty darn close to it. And there was one cheat that I used that I felt guilty about, and it was ivermectin. And with cattle, it's a pour-on, right? And sometimes you can't catch the cattle, so you just put it in a cup and throw it at them. And sometimes it splashes on you, and it's this bright blue color, and I thought it was toxic waste, and I would run to the creek and wash my hands off. But now I just spill it all over myself when I'm trying to...
So I didn't know this about ivermectin. All you need to do is mix it up in a bucket and throw it on people. I got to play that again.
We decided to raise grass-fed cattle, to raise them as naturally as we could. I guess they wouldn't be classified organic because I can't get organic hay from my neighbors, but they're pretty darn close to it. And there was one cheat that I used that I felt guilty about, and it was ivermectin. And with cattle, it's a pour-on, right? And sometimes you can't catch the cattle, so you just put it in a cup and throw it at them. And sometimes it splashes on you, and it's this bright blue color, and I thought it was toxic waste, and I would run to the creek and wash my hands off. But now I just spill it all over myself when I'm trying to treat the cattle.
I don't believe that story is real. I believe Thomas Massie is a pretty smart person. There's no way he could possibly believe that you just throw ivermectin onto animals. I know that they have a paste, which is for parasitic infections. I don't think it's just like seeding a lawn. You just take the seeds and scoops and just throw it on the animals. I don't like doing videos about people being replaced. I don't like videos of this person looks like that person. It's the same person. It's the actor. Because, I think we're reducing ourselves to understanding the world, being victims of just little AI images and deep fakes, and it doesn't explain the why. So I usually don't like to do this type of content. I will continue to refrain from doing it unless it seems to tie into an explanation as to suggest why it's happening, or to validate and bolster what we've already covered here. The AIPAC angle, where AIPAC funds Hindu nationalism. AIPAC is funding Indians within the United States who are in the U.S. government who are supporting the Hindutva in India, or supporting Jewish or Israeli politicians who are also, at least through their voting and through their whatever bills they're writing, very sympathetic with the Hindu movement, or the pro-Modi movement in India. I think this is the part of the AIPAC story that everyone's missing. And this is a third rail. It blows up the Epstein story. It blows up AIPAC. It blows up the Israel, everything. It blows up 9/11. Because now you have to start to factor in the role of the India-Pakistan conflict. It blows up Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, the whole plan to take Charlie Kirk off stage started with comments he made about the U.S. refraining from war between India and Pakistan. It blows up COVID, because then you realize at the same time Event 201 happened, some of the most important diplomats in the last 100 years of history of the United States are all gathering around Prime Minister Modi in India about India's future economy and about the future relationship of the United States. It blows up COVID because you then slowly have to start to accept the fact that most of the evidence, if not all of the evidence, that we had some Chinese lab leak caused by bad Americans who probably are also getting money from Israel, all come out of India. That is why it's the timing, his comments, the death of his wife, and his obvious, painfully obvious replacement with an actor around November of 2024, probably somehow correlated with the election of Trump, perhaps. That is why it's worth mentioning. And I'm willing to bet the farm on it right now. Will the old Massie ever reappear? Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. I haven't ruled it out. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. But to think that Israel could buy a primary is one of the stupidest ideas ever. How does that even happen? It just doesn't make, you can't just throw money and change how people think. No matter how many signs you buy or ads you run, it doesn't make any sense. It's as if they wanted people to know. And in fact, I'm afraid right now there is an ivermectin pour-on product for cattle. Is it a throw-on? I think that there's a very good chance that Massie will be fake assassinated. You'll probably see somebody show up with a MAGA hat and do the Charlie and Kirk him. That's a possibility right now. That would be beautiful. This way you discredit the entire MAGA movement as nothing but white supremacists and terrorists and idiots and everything else. And obviously they're all ruled by Israel or some group that you can't ever really see, because it's Israel, but it's not really the Israelis. It's the Mossad, but it's not all Mossad. It's Zionists, but not all Zionists. And then it's like, well, tell me who are these people? And they just keep showing grainy pictures of photos and then Epstein, but Epstein was dead several years ago. It doesn't make any sense. They're trying to blame something that doesn't even exist, while people can't hear about the thing that does exist. So AIPAC funds Maria Elvira Salazar. And the invasion, Cuba right now is going to be tied up in this if the United States participates in that. One of the largest supporters of the Cuban government is India. I know. No one wants to hear this. Get online, start searching for pictures of Castro and Gandhi. I'm sorry, everybody. But this is how Americans have been badly misled. Americans cannot get out of this paper bag, no matter how wet it gets, until they understand what they are not hearing. And they are getting a very incomplete worldview. You're never going to get a complete worldview, but it's so drastically incomplete that you might as well not hear anything at all. At least this way you won't be motivated to do something bad. Massie has successfully poisoned the minds of conservative independents about Israel and AIPAC. And, but so what? Right? Who cares if Americans like or dislike Israel? I mean, it doesn't matter. Americans can't even take care of themselves, and they're more interested in other countries. That doesn't make any sense. Maha billionaires are mostly not conservatives. Correct. They're mostly not conservatives. India is one of Cuba's top trade partners. Venezuela was as well. Maduro, is it Maduro? Yeah, Maduro was a frequent visitor in India, and the Jackson family too. That's these things are hard to. These are all truths. No one hears about it because we are being told China bad, Israel bad, AIPAC bad, Epstein really bad because of Israel, Trump bad because of Israel, Epstein. And, come on. No nuances at all. The idea that Israel just threw money in Kentucky and changed the primary is the stupidest idea ever. If he lost the primary, first off, now they're throwing out this idea that there's election rigging. Look, it's a primary in a congressional district. You could wait for a nice day and have people gather in a field, an open field, and just look at the other side. You don't even need to have voting. Hell, you could write a special law, okay, to have voting for the whatever the conducting district is. Give everybody in the district a $750 check. One day, no work. Everybody gathers at the field. There'll be an ice cream social, free pizza, food trucks, right? It'll be very nice. Maybe have a couple bands play. And then at the end, you have the people that are pro-Massie go on one part of the field and the people that are anti on the other ones. You have a firework display. Everyone's happy, right? It's totally out in the open. You just look at the crowd size or something like that. So this whole, Israel must have rigged the election. It's like, come on, please. Honestly, I don't wish any harm. But if I do sometimes have this fantasy that there was a way to just, like in the old Looney Tunes, you get out a big saw and you just cut Israel off of Asia, and then you put some chains on it and you just tow it out in the middle of the Pacific. Not because I want anything bad, but just because I don't want to hear about it anymore. Just shut up. I want to stop hearing these stupid ideas coming at us through the media all the time. Just shut up about it, okay? Is there a way to just make it go away? I don't know. Just pretend, because there's no thinking involved here. Massie has made it all about Israel. His followers refuse to accept India's role. They can't. They won't look at it. But you know what? Here's the thing. Okay, one, I will contest this. Okay. I suspect that the India lobby has had a much harder time buying people out than they would have liked to have had. And the control they've had on Massie has, and especially Massie too, a fake Massie, Swapsy, whatever you want to call him. Okay, the replacement that happened sometime around November 2024, the replacement Massie. They need that, which means it's been a little bit harder than I think they would have liked to have Americans in Congress, native-born Americans, sell out the country. I mean, give a little bit of credit when credit's due, all right? Up in the congressional district of, the senator role in Chicago area, a very progressive woman recently won the new Senate seat that used to be Durban. But hey, you know what? At least it wasn't Raja Krishnamurthy. So it's and the over the top rhetoric, the responses we're hearing that the United States is now dead because Thomas Massie lost his primary. Really? One congressional seat defines the United States. That's it. That, according to Redacted, according to Alex Jones, according to Tucker Carlson, according to Kim Iverson, according to that's it. One congressional seat. Thomas Massie is, according to them, the U.S. is now dead because Thomas Massie. Well, Thomas Massie was already replaced 2 years ago, and apparently a lot of people know it. They know it. That's the crazy part, is they know it. Of course no one's going to question if he was replaced because they already know he was replaced. That's exactly why this hasn't gotten the visibility, because they already know. And if they already know and are all complicit in a different person taking the job to talk about one thing and one thing only, obviously there's no chance in hell of getting them to be more concerned about other major factors impacting the United States. It highlights how traitorous most of the alternative media is. It's not Massie. I can empathize with Massie. I haven't been in exactly his role, but I've had a lot of people try to meddle with me, and I understand the consequences of how serious this is. I get it. So if he had to do whatever, I get it. Okay, I'm not upset at him. And the more I watch his old videos, the more I like him, and the more clear it is that the new one is it's a different person. Generating anti-Semitism is still a Zionist project. That's true. But but now there's the lobbies that are supporting anti-Semitism legislation are also supporting anti-Hindu legislation. And there's only like only like 1.5% of America is Jewish. So so that while everyone is focused on one thing, it's there's really other things happening. Everyone is misdirected. Christy says evangelical Christians are taught that Israel Jews are the apple of God's eye. Well, yeah, that has happened, I guess. Up in New England, there's not a lot of evangelical Christians. Again, from what I've heard, that's what they're told. I don't know. I guess. Not the same person. Old Massie. new Massie. This one, definitely new Massie. Beard, he's already growing the beard. Lost the glasses, growing the beard, and his head started to shrink. Actually, he's a little bit bigger in some areas. If you look at the video I shared the other day, different Massie. It's just a different guy. Old Massie, no, oh, that's kind of funny. Old Massie, old Massie, old Massie, old Massie, old Massie, old Massie, here, October 27th, whatever, 2024. Boom, new Massie, different guy. Boom, new Massie, different guy. Different guy, different guy, different guy. All right. It is what it is. No one's going to acknowledge it. They're just going to ignore it. But it is what it is. Different guy. And it's not the fact that this isn't anti-Massie. This is really about exposing Tucker Carlson and the rest of the machine that's willing to support this. That's how bad it is. Of course, they're not going to listen to us. If they're willing to go this far to support this, of course they're not going to listen to us. That's how non-credible they are. Nothing they say matters at this point if they're willing to go along with a stunt like that. All right, guys, thank you much. Again, I'm sorry to be down on this particular path. It's disgusting. I'm not the person that said, hey, let's try to actually swap out a sitting United States congressman and have a bunch of paid actors who do our media play along. I'm not the person who made that decision. I never even imagined something like this would be possible, but it happened. It happened. And they want you to go back to thinking that Tucker Carlson matters. Nope. 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 You are free, everyone. You are free. God bless.